Hello everybody, and welcome to the introduction to the finale of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Tagforce 3. As you can see by the screen, we are looking at the Japanese version of Tagforce 3, and the reason I have downloaded the Japanese version of this game is because we are going to have one final tournament to end it all off. One final tournament with a 100% complete save file that I downloaded off the internet because that's the only way I could do it. Now, the reason we are going to be using the Japanese version of the game to end off this series with the tournament is because not only does this have every save file with every character in it, but the Japanese version has voice acting, and I feel like that would be a great way to end off the series. So, right now, I'm going to introduce to you your choices for the final tournament and for the finale of Tagforce 3. I don't have any special prizes this time, nothing to give away. It's all about bragging rights, and maybe I will just give something away to whoever wins, or whoever's choice wins to the prize. Whoever's choice wins the entire tournament. But first, let me go through all the options. The first character you can choose is Jaden Yuki, and he will be using a buffed version of his Neos deck from the tournament. It will be a buffed version. The second choice you could choose is Jaden Yuki. But this is a young Jaden still using his old school elemental hero deck, including his Shining Flare Wingman. And of course, the man who received second place in the first tournament will continue to use his evil heroes because they were so effective. But it will be a buffed version of his evil hero deck. So if you want to vote for any of these three characters, go right ahead. The next character you can vote for is Cyrus. Cyrus will continue to use his Underworld deck that he got from Zane. However, if you want a little bit of old school, I will also be allowing Slifer Red Cyrus into the tournament, and he will be using his original Roids deck. However, it's not original, it's going to include two of the Vehicle Roid fusions. Next in the tournament is going to be the Chaz, and the Chaz in this tournament will be using his Armed Dragon deck. However, if you don't want the Armed Dragon deck, you could always pick Obelisk Blue Chaz, and Obelisk Blue Chaz will be using his VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon deck. So those are the two decks he will be using, those are the two characters. These are separate characters, by the way. This is a separate character. You can only vote for one character. So you can't vote for both versions of Chaz, just one. Next, we'll be using Zane in the tournament. Yes, Zane will be using his improved Underworld deck. There's an upgraded one in this game. So I'm going to let him use the upgraded Underworld deck. And we're going to have original Obelisk Blue Zane. And Obelisk Blue Zane will be using a Cyber Dragon deck. His original Cyber Dragon deck. So you can vote for either of these characters. Next in the tournament, we are going to be using Blair, and Blair will continue to use her Lightsworn deck. Now, since Blair won the tournament in such, let's say, quick fashion, I have decided that she will be the only character to receive a nerf. Her deck has been nerfed so that she only has one Judgment Dragon. Her deck is exactly the same, except that she only has one Judgment Dragon this time around. So, she's been limited. However, that's not the only Blair that's going to be in the series. I'm also going to allow Young Blair with hats for some reason. Young Blair, and she will be using her original Maiden deck. So if you actually preferred her Maiden deck that she used in the beginning of the show, then yes, she will be using that in this tournament. So you could choose between Lightsworn Blair or Maiden Blair. Next in the tournament, we have Alexis Rhodes, and she will be using a buffed version of her Cyber Angel deck. That is correct, a buff version of Cyber Angels. If you don't want to vote for her, we have Bastion Masala, who will actually be using his Water Dragon deck this time. Instead of a random wind deck, he will be using his Water Dragon deck because it's unlocked in this game. So I hope you're excited for Bastion at his best. Next, we're going to move on to the next contestant, which is Tyranno Hasselberry, who will be using a buffed version of his Ultimate Tyranno deck. Yes, he's receiving a big buff for his deck. So his dinos will include more Hyper Hammerheads and even an Ultimate Tyranno, a Tyranno Infinity strategy within his deck. Next, we're going to have Destiny Heroes coming from the Aster Phoenix deck. And this Aster Phoenix deck, of course, is going to be focused around Plasma, Dogma, and Dragoon. So this is going to be a very powerful Destiny Hero deck. Next, we're going to have Jesse, and in the last tournament, Jesse was using his Advanced Dark deck, but in this tournament, Jesse's going to be using his original Crystal Beast deck with Rainbow Dragon. So no Dark Fusions, no nothing, it's just going to be Rainbow Dragon. His deck failed him in the tournament, but this new one might do just the trick. The next contestant in the tournament will be Evil Sartorius, and Sartorius will be using his Arcana deck with Arcana the World as his boss monster. Next will be a brand new contestant in the tournament, Serena. And Serena will be using her Monarchs deck. If you like the Monarch monsters, she is the person to go for. She loves the Monarch monsters too. Next in the tournament is going to be Bonaparte. Bonaparte is the bane of my existence, and I cannot believe he went like top 8 in my tournament. It was disgusting. Or was it top 16? He went too far. He went way too far. I can't believe he knocked out like Jaden and stuff. It was disgusting. He will be using his Toy Emperor deck, and don't vote for him. I hate Bonaparte. Next, we have Adrian Gecko, who will be using his Cloudian deck, and his Cloudian deck will be receiving a buff in this tournament. He will be receiving a buff so that he can run cards that actually work well with the Cloudians, because in this game all the decks are unlocked, so I was able to help him with that. The next contestant in the tournament will be Jim Crocodile Cook, and he will be the only one using the Fossil Fusion deck with his Fossil monsters. And this will be an extremely good version of his Fossil deck that involves a lot of buffing. It's a big buff. Jim Crocodile Cook has been given a big buff. I've already tested it, and he's won every duel that I've tested. Ignore the 999 win stuff. That's just for the thing. Every time I set him against an AI, he won with this deck. So I don't know if I need to nerf him, but I'm going to allow it for the tournament. Next, we're going to have Axel Brody. And Axel Brody had a really, really boring deck in the tournament that had to deal with stalling and burning. Not this time. Axel Brody will be using his original Volcanic deck in this tournament, which means his focus is going to be summoning Volcanic Doomfire. No, he does not have Messenger of Peace, thank God. So that's good news for him. And now we have a newcomer to the tournament, Viper. Viper will be in the tournament this time around, and Viper will be using his Venom Swamp deck. And you know, it's like Venomaga. It's like a huge boss monster that has he likes his Venom cards. So if you like Viper, there you go. He's in the tournament. The next contestant in the tournament is none other than Crowler, a crowd favorite in the tournament. He did really, really good. And this time around, I'm going to give him a buffed Ancient Gear deck that involves his Ultimate Ancient Gear. His Ultimate Ancient Gear monster is going to be amazing. But yes, Crowler will be using a buffed Ancient Gear deck. Also going into this tournament, we are going to have Atticus Rhodes. And Atticus Rhodes will be using his actual Beast Warrior deck in this tournament. Yes, he will be using his actual Beast Warrior deck in this tournament. And the only reason he's doing that is because I'm also going to allow Night Shroud in this tournament as a separate character. And Night Shroud will be using his original Red Eyes Darkness Dragon deck. So if you want Red Eyes Darkness Dragon, vote for Night Shroud. If you want his Beast King Barbalos or whatever its name is, vote for Atticus. Next person in this tournament will be Damon, and I'm not changing Damon one bit. Damon got screwed in the tournament by Tanya's effect. It was the best battle I've ever seen in my entire life. He will continue to use his Exodia Draw Power deck. It almost won last time, but for some reason in that tournament, in the first tournament, Tanya's monster, what was it, Amazoness Chainmaster got destroyed or something, and then she stole a piece of Exodia from his hand and put it in her hand. It was the most amazing play I've ever seen. So I'm going to allow Damon to stay the same. I think he's a huge contender. Next, we have Jasmine, and Jasmine was top 8, top 16 somewhere in my tournament. She did insanely good, and she will be using the same deck because her deck did so good she doesn't need a buff. She will be using the Harpy Lady deck, and the Harpy Lady deck is insane. All credit goes to Jasmine. She is literally one of the best contenders in this series. Next will be her friend Mindy, and Mindy will be using a buff version of her Cutesy Burn deck. Cutesy Burn as in she likes to run a lot of beast monsters that involve burn cards. It didn't work too well in the first tournament, so I'm giving her a buff version of her deck. You'll see. The next person in the tournament is a fan favorite, somebody that got the most votes last time and did really good. The only reason Dark Magician Girl got knocked out is because she got knocked out by Blair and her Judgment Dragon, which she will not have this time. Blair won't have 3 at least this time. So Dark Magician Girl is still a strong contender, and she will be using the same Dark Magician Girl deck she used last time. The only reason I'm not going to change her deck is because she literally is using the best version of her deck possible. And it is amazing. She is a brutal duelist. When she bricks, but 90% of the time, she just automatically destroys the opponent within 7 turns. If you vote for Dark Magician Girl, you're voting for 90-10. She's either going to decimate the opponent or be decimated by unlucky hand. Next in the tournament will be none other than Jinzo, and Jinzo will be using his Jinzo Lord deck, but buffed. This will be a buffed Jinzo Lord deck where it's easier for him to use Jinzo using cards like Soul Exchange. So, yeah, this is going to be a very powerful version of Jinzo, and he'll continue to use the Jinzo Lord, which he only has 1 of in his deck, but he has 3 Jinzos in his deck, which is cheating, but it's not. For the tournament, it's not. Next, we have Sadie, who did extremely well in my tournament. Her burn deck was unstoppable. In fact, I'm going to call her deck the Burn Master deck. Her boss monster being her Lava Golem, and she is a beast. I don't know how she did it, but Sadie was one of the best contenders of the last tournament, and in this final tournament, I honestly think she can take it all. So if you want to vote for Sadie, there you go. Next, we have Dorothy, and Dorothy is the biggest underdog you are going to find. I looked through all of her decks after seeing this 100% completed file, and all of them suck except the first one, which is her Synchro deck. But her Synchro deck is still much weaker than anybody else's, so Dorothy is going to be the underdog of this tournament, and that is going to be with her Synchro deck. So yeah, enjoy Dorothy. The next contender is going to be brand new. We have Slade Princeton, and Slade Princeton will be using his 5-God Dragon deck. Yes, he has the 5-God Dragon deck that he spent a bunch of money on. After that, we have Jagger Princeton, and Jagger Princeton is going to be using a very similar deck. I looked at it, they do have a few differences, and I'm just going to call it the King Dragoon deck. So he'll be using, even though they both basically use the same boss monsters, a lot of their main monsters are kind of different. They mix them up. So Jagger and Slade, you can vote for one of them, obviously. I guess if I had to choose between them, I might vote for Slade, because Slade has more consistent monsters where Jagger has more powerful monsters. So it's harder for him to summon, but I would say that they're good contenders because it's very easy for them to get 5-God Dragon out. And 5-God Dragon is a beast. The next person in this tournament is Fonda, and Fonda will be using her Anti-Cure deck. And her Anti-Cure deck is getting a buff in this tournament, so she's going to be way better at getting gift card, getting bad reaction to Samochi, and stalling the opponent until she burns them to death. And of course she uses her Nurse Reticule, whatever, which is a really good card. And if she can't win by her effects, she could always win by battle because she runs the Injection Fairy Lily. So she's actually a really good contender in this tournament. Next, we're going to go on to the Gambler. And the Gambler in this tournament will be using a very, very buffed version of his deck, which is going to still leave everything up to luck. This man did pretty good in the last tournament. He beat somebody at least, and he almost beat the second opponent, but it's all up to luck for him. If he flips the coin wrong or doesn't get second coin toss, he kind of gets screwed, but he'll be using a buff version of his deck in this game using the Gatling Dragon. So, the next opponent is going to be Yasmin, and Yasmin will continue to use her Gravekeeper deck, although it will be a buffed version of her Gravekeeper deck. In the other tournament, she only had 2 Necro Valleys and 2 of that one guy that's Gravekeeper's Commandment. In this one, she's going to have 3 Gravekeeper's Commandment and 3 Necro Valleys, including a bunch of buffing cards. So she is going to be another big contender. The Gravekeepers are super annoying. The next contender in this tournament is none other than Titan. And Titan will be using his Archfiend deck, and his boss monster, of course, is the Archfiend Manticore. He actually did put up a little bit of a fight last time, but hopefully with a better bracket, if he gets a little luckier, he'll be able to move on this time. Because he had a hard bracket in the last tournament. So in this tournament, if he could just get a proper bracket, and now that there's no Blair to destroy everybody, I honestly think he actually has a fighting chance with his Archfiend deck. The next battler is a brand new one, Para. Yes, Para will be in this tournament. Para from the Paradox Brothers. However, I've looked at their decks, and Para's deck, I kid you not, even though it does have one piece of the Gate Guardian, it does not have the Gate Guardian. And his main focus is summoning the Labyrinth tank. So his actual boss monster is the Labyrinth tank. I am not joking. He does have a piece of the Gate Guardian, only one, but his boss is the Labyrinth tank. And next is going to be his brother Dox, and Dox will be having the other two pieces of the Gate Guardian, but no Gate Guardian. I'm not joking. Neither of them can summon Gate Guardian without the other. So his actual boss monster, I shit you not, is Labyrinth Wall. I don't know how this is going to work. However, he does have two pieces of the Gate Guardian in his deck. So if you want one piece of the Gate Guardian and Labyrinth Tank, you go with Para. If you want two pieces of the Gate Guardian and Wall Shadow and Labyrinth Wall, you go with Dox. Dox is the green one, by the way. Next in the tournament, we have Professor Banner. And Professor Banner will be using a Morphing Jar copycat deck. Not even kidding. He runs like a bunch of Morphing Jars. Morphing Jar 2 and 1. And he runs Copycat. And now I'm going to separate him from Amniel in this tournament. Amniel will be using his Macrocosmos deck. This will be an extremely buffed version of Macrocosmos where it's very easy for him to get them out. It's very easy for him to get cards that remove cards from play. So this is going to be a very buff version of him. Professor Banner will be using the Weird deck, and Amniel will be using the Macrocosmo deck. I don't know who you want to vote for. Banner, I've never seen your deck in my entire life, so I don't know how to tell people to vote for you. And Amniel, I know your deck, and it's actually going to be really good this tournament. Next person in the tournament will be Camula, and Camula will be using her honest-to-goodness vampire deck in this series with the focus of summoning Vampire Genesis. That is correct. She will actually be using her correct vampire deck. It is going to be a really, really powerful one, too. Her vampire deck comes with a lot of supports, so get ready. And if she gets that Vampire Lord out or Vampire Genesis out, it's going to be hard to get rid of them. Next in the tournament is Tanya, another character that did really, really good in my last tournament. She used the Amazonas deck, and her Amazonas deck is getting a big old buff in this one. Even though she did good in the last tournament, I still thought she could use a buff, so I found her best deck that involved the Amazonas monsters. And in this deck, she likes to use strategies with Swordswoman, the Tiger, and of course, Amazon Archer. If you all know about Amazon Archer, that card is busted. So Tanya is going to be another big contender in this tournament. Next, we have Don Zalug, and Don Zalug will be using his Dark Scorpion deck. However, this will not be the same Dark Scorpion deck that we used in the last tournament. This will be a buffed version of his Dark Scorpion deck, so don't be afraid to vote for Don Zalug. He has a higher chance of winning. The next character is brand new to the tournament, and it will be Abydos III. Abydos III will be using his Spirit of the Pharaoh deck. However, it's not just a Spirit of the Pharaoh deck. His deck is actually a special summoning zombie deck. So if you like the special summoning zombie deck, you go for freaking Abydos here. Also, of course, he does summon Spirit of the Pharaoh, so if you're into that card, there you go. The next person to be participating in this tournament is the final boss of Season 1, Kagamaru, a guy who did really, really good in my last tournament, but was stopped by a man of Australian descent. No, not really. A man who uses an Australian deck. A man you guys know very well. But Kagamaru will be using a different deck in this tournament. In the last tournament, he used a Ravael deck. In this tournament, thanks to this save file having all the decks unlocked, he will be using all of the Sacred Beasts, including the Fusion Armatile. So he will be using all of the Sacred Beasts this time around. He's at full power. And if you don't want to vote for Kagamaru, you can vote for the man who defeated him in the last tournament, the Chumster, Chumley the Underdog, a guy who received top 8 or top 16, it's hard for me to remember, in my last tournament and rocked the world. He will be using his Australian deck yet again, and honestly, I think he could just win it with this deck alone. I don't know. I remember he got stopped by one of the best characters. I think it was Supreme King Jaden. So only reason he lost is because he lost to the guy who got second place. And he almost beat that person. He almost beat Supreme King Jaden. So Chumley, you don't need to be buffed. You are as strong as you need to be. You just need to get a luckier hand this time around. Honestly, I'm going to give more credit to Chumley. He freaking blew our minds last tournament. Maybe he can take it on this one. If he gets a better bracket or if he gets a better hand when he fights the big bosses, I think he can do it. The next person participating in the tournament will be Yugioh. And Yugioh got 4th in my last tournament with her amazing Yugioh deck. In this tournament, I will be giving her another Yugioh deck. This one will be a little bit buffed. I know it sounds weird to give somebody who got 4th a buff, but she's going to be receiving a buff in her Yugioh deck. It is still a Yugioh deck though. The next person in this tournament will be Truman and his Dark World deck. Now, Truman's Dark World deck got screwed last time. He bricked hard. But I realized that when I looked at the decks in this game, that he wasn't using the best version of his Dark World deck. So now, he's going to be using the most powerful version of his Dark World's deck, and he probably will have much more consistency and a lot more monsters and spell cards to toss his monsters. So this is going to be a true Dark World deck from Truman, and it's going to be very powerful. And now, with the 52nd contestant, the final contestant in my tournament, there are 52 people to choose from. We have Fujiwara, and Fujiwara will be using his Clear World deck again. However, this will be a buffed version of his Clear World deck where it's easier for him to summon the Clear Vice Dragon, and it's easier for him to get his field spell. So, that is all your contestants, everybody. In the last tournament, we had some weird people go on into the future, so don't be afraid to vote for anybody you like this time. Since there are 52 contestants in total, I decided not to add any page 3 characters. I was thinking about it, but ultimately I decided not to. If you still want to see page 3 characters, you can let me know in the comments section below. But you have to let me know exactly what page 3 character you want to see. Ignore that outside. Exactly what page 3 character you want to see. And I want to know why. So, there are all your page 3 characters, and these are all your guys. All of your 52 contestants are here. Do not forget that everyone has different versions of them. So when you vote in the comment section below, you gotta tell me which version. Or do you want Jaden with his Neo stack? Do you want original Jaden with his Elemental Hero deck? Or do you want the Supreme King Jaden with his Evil Hero deck? You gotta be specific. Okay? Don't just say Professor Banner. You gotta say, I want Professor Banner with that deck nobody knows about, or I want Amniel with his Macrocosmos deck. It's up to you to decide which deck you really want. It's up to you to decide which character you want to vote for. But those are your 52 votes. And like I said, I might be giving a prize to first place, second place, and third place, but I'm not going to reveal what those prizes are this time. So pick for whoever you want. And if you still want to vote for Blair, go right ahead. But understand that she's only going to have one Judgment Dragon in this game. She's the only character to receive a nerf in my game. Also, you can vote for Young Blair. Remember that. And with her Maiden in Love deck, which is very funny. But that's it, guys. Vote in the comment section down below. Get ready for the final tournament. A final tournament whose date will be released soon. So don't worry. I know it's like, wait, but when's the tournament? When's the tournament? I will tell you guys when the tournament is. It's coming up. But those are your 52 choices. Let me know who you want. Bye-bye.